Welcome to Real Shame. It's a twice a week, sometimes more show where we talk about movies from our movie list of shame or from our movie blind spots. I'm Adam.
I'm Andy.
And this week we're coming at you with two mockumentaries. The first one's going to be This is Spinal Tap. But before we get into our review of This is Spinal Tap, we always like to talk about what we've been watching. So, Andy, what have you been watching?
All right, so I didn't cover this last time, but I finally finished all the Bond movies.
Oh, yeah, I've been wanting to know about this.
Finally watched all the way to Spectre, which I had not seen before, so this is the first time. Every other Bond movie I think I've seen at least once. Spectre is the only one that I had not seen, so I got some stats for you that I'll quickly run down, or try and quickly run down. My top 5 Bond songs, and all these lists go from 5 to 1, obviously. Live and Let Die. Oh. Then You Know My Name.
I can't stand Live and Let Die.
Chris Cornell. Love me some Chris Cornell.
Yep,
R.I.P.
That's awesome.
From Casino Royale. For Your Eyes Only by Sheena Easton. And number 1, so close, but number 2, everybody loves Duran Duran, A View to a Kill. It's a great song, but my favorite is from The Spy Who Loved Me. It's Carly Simon's Nobody Does It Better. Opens the movie with a really, really awesome stunt as well. My the worst Bond song is Tomorrow Never Dies by Sheryl Crow, in my opinion. Top 5 Bond girls. Honey Rider, played by Ursula Andress from Dr. No. Then Melina Havelock for Your Eyes Only. And a lot of people hate For Your Eyes Only. I have a soft spot for it, I think, because I saw it a lot when I was a kid. Yeah. It's probably not a great Bond movie, but I like it. And honestly, Melina Havelock, played by Carol Bouquet, is not a very good actress. Camila Montez from Quantum of Solace. I like that she's a badass, like wanting to get revenge on the general, played by Olga Kurylenko. I probably butchered her name. Tiffany Case from the last Sean Connery Bond film, not counting Never Say Never Again, because that's not official. She's from Diamonds Are Forever. And number 1, got to go with Pussy Galore, played by Honor Blackman from Goldfinger, which is an amazing Bond film.
Goldfinger.
The worst Bond girl by a country mile is Holly Goodhead from Moonraker. And Moonraker, in my opinion, is the worst Bond movie out of all of them. The best villain, I only did 1. I didn't do top 5. But I think the best villain is actually Sean Bean from GoldenEye.
Yes.
I really think he is
006.
a kick-ass villain. The worst villain, surprise, is from Moonraker, Hugo Drax. He is lame.
Jaws, who's in love.
Well, Jaws is just the sidekick kind of henchman guy. But no, Jaws is awesome. Yeah. If I had to go the best sidekicks, I think it'd be Oddjob from Goldfinger, but Jaws would be right behind him. Except I hate the fact that they made Jaws like silly in Moonraker, of course. The best Bond movie, well, before I get to that, the top 6 Bond, because there's only been 6 people so far that have played Bond.
So you're going to rank the Bonds in order?
Rank the Bonds in my personal preference.
And this is lowest to highest?
Lowest to highest. I think Lazenby, he's not the worst, but he's number 6 because he only did 1 movie.
Yeah, okay.
Although I don't think he's bad. Then I would say Dalton. Then I like Pierce Brosnan more than Daniel Craig, so then Daniel Craig is next. Then Pierce Brosnan, and then Roger Moore. And I think Sean Connery is still the best Bond, honestly. The best Bond movie for each actor. Sean Connery, these are not really in order because they're by actor. Sean Connery, I think his best movie is Goldfinger. Roger Moore is For Your Eyes Only.
What about George Lazenby's?
Lazenby only did 1, so I didn't even include him. I think Timothy Dalton's is License to Kill, but he only did 2. That's the second one he did. I think the best Pierce Brosnan one, honestly, is GoldenEye.
Yes.
And I think the best Daniel Craig Bond movie is Casino Royale.
And who directed both GoldenEye and Casino Royale?
Martin Campbell. The worst Bond movie for each actor. Sean Connery's worst is You Only Live Twice. Moonraker is Roger Moore's because Moonraker is awful. Living Daylights is the worst Timothy Dalton, but he only did 2. And I like the Living Daylights. I just don't like it as much as the second one he did. I think Die Another Day is Pierce Brosnan's worst. That's the last Bond movie he did.
Is that the one where it starts out where he's in the camp?
Yes.
I thought that was so interesting, but I haven't seen a lot of the Bond movies.
And I like Halle Berry's in it as Jinx. I like her. And Rosamund Pike is in it. I like her. But the rest of the movie I pretty much don't like. And then I think the worst Bond movie for Daniel Craig is Spectre. No, it's Spectre. I actually like Quantum of Solace. I know people hate on it. I don't like Spectre.
I just feel like Quantum of Solace doesn't make any sense. And that was done during the writer's strike, and they were like fast tracking it and stuff. And it just feels like to me there was no one behind the wheel of that movie.
I don't know. I like it.
But I did like how it continued or tried to continue what was going on in Casino Royale.
The top 5 Bond movies. My top 5 list going from worst to, not worst to best, but 5th best to first best. GoldenEye is number 5. For Your Eyes Only, again, I have a soft spot for it. It's number 4. Number 3, I actually wrote these down in the wrong order. Number 3, I adore this movie, and I didn't even remember it much. It's From Russia with Love, Sean Connery's second Bond film. Number 2, this used to be my number 1 favorite Bond film. And you might think I'm crazy for it getting knocked out of first place, but when I saw these Bond films originally and ranked them, Daniel Craig hadn't made any Bond movies. So number 2 is now Goldfinger, because that's like the quintessential kind of Bond film, and it's the best Sean Connery Bond film and one of the best villains in Goldfinger. Number 1, my favorite Bond film is actually Casino Royale. Daniel Craig's Casino Royale. I love that movie. I think it is so awesome.
It's long.
But I don't care at all. Yeah, I mean, I love that movie. I mean, we're watching it again. This is only the second time I've seen it. I think they just did so much right with that. A lot of people criticize Daniel Craig's portrayal in general. They feel like it's more like Jason Bourne or whatever, like Jason Bond.
It's post Bourne movie, so I feel like you needed to reboot it, and they wanted to make it grittier. So in the context of everything, it made sense to me. And actually, I like Daniel Craig's less gadget kind of stuff, and I feel like they actually do him a disservice later on when they brought in, Mallory Q as M and all that stuff, and Q, and they gave him more gadgets. Like I like the whole Bourne influenced Bond for sure.
Yeah. And I don't have a problem with that. I like the reboot, and I like kind of the arc, how they very slowly introduced this secret organization that is Spectre over the course of several films. But yeah, I think Casino Royale is awesome.
And I like Vesper Lynn.
Yes.
Ava Green's gorgeous.
Mads
and
Mikkelsen
awesome.
as Le Chiffre. Yeah, he's awesome. Felix Leiter, Jeffrey Wright.
Yeah.
Cool movie. But that's my...
I mean, I haven't seen all the Bond movies. I've probably seen almost exclusively the last 2 Bonds, which is Pierce Brosnan and Daniel Craig. But yeah, I love Casino Royale. I love GoldenEye. And like I said, I'm a big fan of the director who did both of those movies.
I've got a few other movies, but I'm not since I just spent forever on Bond movies. I just want to very, very quickly, and some of these I'm not even going to mention. I watched the new Child's Play, which I watched.
Mark Hamill is the voice.
Yeah, that's about the only thing good about the movie. Is Mark Hamill does a pretty good job with the voice, but that movie's not good. Pee-wee's Big Holiday, which is the latest Pee Wee Herman film. Also,
is that the one that came out like a year ago or so?
A few years ago now. Not very good. Nothing is as good as Pee-wee's Big Adventure. That's the best. There's a new movie with Joseph Gordon-Levitt on Amazon Prime. It's an Amazon Prime original movie. It's called 7500. Where he's a pilot.
Heard about that, but I have not seen it.
I thought it was really good, actually.
Oh, really?
But I don't know if you'll like it, honestly. I don't know. As I was watching, I was like, I don't know if Adam would like this movie. But I thought it was interesting. And I've seen all over the map kind of reviews. Some people despise it. Some people think it's really good. I enjoyed it for what it was. And again, it's Amazon Prime, so they don't promote it very much. Like, I'm surprised I even stumbled upon it, but I liked it. And then the final 2 movies that I rewatched some stuff, but I'm not going to mention it. The final 2 movies I watched, I both really enjoyed. I watched The Guest with what's his name, Dan Stevens.
Okay,
from Downton Abbey and some other stuff.
And the
that guy,
the FX show, Mutant Show.
Yeah, Legion.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up because I'd forgotten all about that show. But have you seen The Guest?
No.
So it's directed by Adam Wingard, who did You're Next, and I think he worked on like ABCs of Death and VHS and stuff like that. And now he's going to do Kong versus Godzilla.
I hear great things about Adam Wingard as a director.
I like You're Next. I could appreciate the concept. I didn't really like the movie all that much, but The Guest is awesome. It is really? So much fun. If you watch it and you don't find yourself laughing, because it's really a dark comedy. Very dark and twisted. If you don't find yourself laughing, just turn it off because you don't get it. I seriously. But it's hilarious. Oh my God. It's a really good movie to see where it goes, where it unfolds. I really, really enjoyed it. And the final film, sorry I'm taking so long, but the final film that I watched that I also thought was terrific is a movie called Christine. And no, it's not the possessed 1958 Plymouth Fury or 57. I think it's 58. Whatever. It's not the car movie. This is a movie about it's a true life story about a woman named Christine Chubbuck who shot herself on live on air. She was a newscaster and she committed suicide. basically live on air back in the 1970s, in 1974. Weirdly enough, it's one of those stories. I'd actually heard about her, I think, before the internet, like before Wikipedia. Somehow I had heard about this story that this lady had shot herself on TV. And they make a film of it starring a lady named Rebecca Hall, who gives a Oscar-worthy performance, in my opinion. She is terrific in this movie.
Did it come out this year?
Came out in 2016.
All right.
This movie is not for everybody. The guy who directed it, he's done a couple of other things, but I've never heard of him or seen him. I don't think, he's really busy, I guess, in the Hollywood world or anything like that. But I feel like he should definitely be given a chance to direct some other stuff. I thought the movie was just masterfully done. It's edited, and it's 2 hours long, but I was riveted the entire time, largely because of Rebecca Hall's performance as Christine. But it's a sad movie, obviously. It's a depressing kind of film, but I don't want to compare it necessarily to Joker, but it kind of did give me that vibe. And honestly, it gave me some Taxi Driver kind of vibes, which also Joker does as well. It doesn't reach the level of greatness that Taxi Driver does, because I think Taxi Driver is a phenomenal film. But this movie is superb, I thought. I was really, really surprised by how much I responded to this film. And I think it's a movie that, I think the best cinema, or, arguably the best cinema, is cinema that challenges us or frightens us in some way or really makes us kind of think. And I definitely kind of felt all of those emotions while I was watching this film. And I felt just very bad for this young lady, obviously, because she had sort of a tragic life. But I still thought the movie was well worth your time. It flew way under the radar, but it was very critically well received. It was like 80-something or 90-something fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. But it's just, nobody saw it because, let's face it, it's not exactly the kind of family film that we all want to sit down and watch all the time. But anyway, sorry, I talked for like 20 minutes. What are you going to watch it?
Well, you talking about Christine makes me really interested in that, but also you talking about the Stephen King Christine makes me want to pair that with Cars.
The Pixar movie?
Yeah. or what's the Maximum Overdrive?
Oh yeah.
Pair that with Cars.
The trucks, yeah.
That might be that might be interesting.
Might be.
I
have not seen Cars.
I'll have to do that.
I have not seen Cars.
So continuing down Kirby's 90s movie thing, we picked out a movie similar to Airport 77 in the fact that they are trapped in a tube underneath the water. And it stars Sylvester Stallone in Daylight.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Daylight, awesome, fun movie. Yeah. I think Kirby and I enjoyed it. It's Viggo Mortensen, like in a very early role for him. And he's like this rock climber dude that gets like smothered by rocks because he's kind of doing his own thing.
He's like, damn it, why did I have to be a rock climber?
Yeah. So it's just a bunch of fun movie. We watched White House Down, which I really didn't want to watch, but we did. And I would say out of Olympus Has Fallen and White House Down, Olympus Has Fallen is the far superior movie. I think White House Down actually might be done by Roland Emmerich. Yeah.
I was going to say, I know he either did White House Down or he did Olympus Has Fallen. He did one of them.
Yeah, White House Down. I think he did White House Down, and that movie's not good.
Okay.
Like, it's not. It's interesting. Like, I would like to see something, because Olympus Has Fallen, White House Down came out at the same time. Mm-hmm. We had Deep Impact and Armageddon come out at the same time. We had, Volcano and Dante's Peak. There's always these movies that kind of come out around the same time.
Christine and another movie about Christine came out at around the same time, weirdly enough. The movie I just talked about,
So it was just interesting how to do that. And the last thing we watched was Coneheads. And I think we talked about it in our favorite SNL movies, but that movie is just, it's a blast. Like, it's just, I think it's the best. I think I said this too. I think it's the best SNL movie. Like, SNL, best movie based off of SNL characters. I just think it's fun, and it's awesome. And it's interesting seeing, like, David Spade in a small role. Adam Sandler's in the movie for like a bit role that I don't remember him being in and stuff like that. So it's cool.
I need to revisit Coneheads because I remember nothing other than they're Coneheads.
But those are the kind of the fun things that we watched. So anything else you'd like to add on what we watched?
No, I said enough.
This is a top to what we use on stage, but it's very, very special because if you can see, the numbers all go to 11. Look, right across the board. 11, 11,
and most of
11,
the
and then
amps go up to 10.
Exactly.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it? It's not 10. You see, most blokes, be playing at 10. You're on 10 here, all the way up, all the way up, all the way up. You're on 10 on your guitar. Where can you go from there? Where?
I don't know.
Nowhere, exactly. What we do is, if we need that extra push over the cliff, you know what we do?
Put it up to 11.
11, exactly. One louder.
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
Alrighty, so you got a British band. They are having a hard time filling stadiums, and actually they're not filling stadiums at all. They're getting lost trying to find their way to the stage. They've got album titles like Intravenous de Milo and Shark Sandwich, which one reviewer describes as shit sandwich.
That was the funniest part of the movie.
They get stuck inside of their own props on stage. They mislabel props and find the dimensions of those props are not quite what they thought they were going to be. But they are the British group Spinal Tap, and the movie is directed by Martin DeBurgi, or Rob Reiner, it's Rob Reiner playing Marty DeBurgi. This is Spinal Tap. So, This is Spinal Tap is a mockumentary which came out in 1984, and it was not the first mockumentary to be made, but it's one of the most well-known, if not the most kind of well-known, and kind of started a trend of both music mockumentaries and other kind of mockumentaries. Christopher Guest, who's in Spinal Tap, or This is Spinal Tap, he's basically made a career out of making mockumentaries. This is Spinal Tap is a movie that you've never seen.
Never seen.
Until now. So did Spinal Tap rock your world, or did it go to 11, or did it go to 0?
It's so interesting because, like, being like a musician that I am and liking movies the way I would, you'd think that, like, the intersection of those would make me really want to see This is Spinal Tap, soon. And there's so much of this movie that has just permeated popular culture, right?
Yeah.
So, like, it goes to 11 is just everywhere. Like, you hear that a lot. Mm-hmm. Their IMDb score goes to 11.
I read that. I did work on my browser.
Really?
I tried to, maybe I was using, because I was using Firefox, but I was like, mine only goes to 10.
It won't let you rate to 11, but if you look at the stars, it's X out of 10.
Okay.
Or X out of 11.
I thought it would actually let you rate it 11 stars. I'm clueless me.
And I think Google does stuff. I mean, you hear about it goes to 11 a lot.
Yeah.
So I knew a lot about this movie. I don't know why I was reticent to watch it, but actually, overall, I really enjoyed this movie. I
was waiting for like a big butt. I thought you were going to be like, this movie.
I think the movie is like super clever and super smart. And the interesting thing about this movie that I've kind of read a little bit was, well, I don't think this movie is as elevated as you find like with Walk Hard, right? Mm-hmm. Which is another like making fun of the documentary things. Like it just feels like here's normal and we're going to go here, right? We're just going to go 1 click, 2 clicks above it, right? And so it's not surprising to me that when I was reading some of the IMDb, that a lot of people thought that this band Spinal Tap was real.
Yeah.
And actually, for the longest time, I thought this was based off a real band that I never heard of, Spinal Tap. I didn't know a whole lot about the movie, but I just remember being like, oh yeah, this we have like Give Me Shelter. I don't know if it's based on Stones, but we have like
Rolling Stones movie.
Yeah, we have like The Last Dance and like these documentaries about big bands, and This is Spinal Tap is about Spinal Tap. Mm-hmm. And then later on, as I got more into movies, I realized that, this is a mockumentary.
Yeah.
And then also the other thing I read is like a lot of musicians see this movie as almost like not a horror movie, but they see it as like very realistic.
That's our life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how did they make a movie about us? Yeah.
So I do think the movie's super clever, super interesting. My only downside of this is I didn't really laugh out loud. Yeah. During the whole movie. Like, there's a lot of like, oh, that's funny, or oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But I think the funniest part for me was the shit sandwich part. Like, I laughed at that part.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I am. I kind of wish I was more...
The Stonehenge coming down, it's like tiny.
I think because I knew that happened, and the dwarfs and stuff, like it wasn't really surprising, and maybe that's the problem with seeing a movie. I mean, it's 36 years later?
Yeah, 36.
So I think that maybe that's the issue too, is with this movie's as old as I am. So maybe a lot of it's permeated and it's not as funny. But the interesting thing is like they ad-libbed a lot of this. Like this was all improv, and it's just, and the songs were actually good, which which makes movies like this interesting and fun when you can actually enjoy the music. Kind of like with like Pop Star Never Stop Popping, the music's kind of it's not as good, and so it's not as a fun movie to watch. But like I said, I really like the movie. I just wish there's more me laughing out loud at parts of the movie.
Yeah, but I mean, as long as you still kind of find it amusing, though, even if you're not just like openly laughing like crazy or whatever. Because I mean, I also when I watch this movie, I might laugh a little bit more than you when you watch it, but there are moments where I just recognize the cleverness of it. I recognize that's funny, but I'm not just like ha 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 or whatever. I do laugh a lot at Shit Sandwich. I do still laugh at the Stonehenge coming down because it's just so ridiculous.
I think the pod thing was the funniest.
I love the pod thing too. Yeah, because the bass player can't get out of the pod, and also I love when they're trying to find their way to the stage and they talk to the guy and he's like, "Go down this way, turn right, then make another left, and do this or whatever." And they walk around and there he is again, and he's just like, "You must have took a wrong turn."
And they're going Cleveland on
they're trying to get amped up for the show. They're like, "Yeah, Cleveland or whatever." But I like all that stuff. The
Boston's
when they go to the one venue and it says like Puppet Show and Spinal Tap, and she's like, "I told them to put Spinal Tap first and then the Puppet Show." Or like when they go, they have to play the Air Force Base, and of course you see Fred Willard. There's a lot of like little cameos in this movie from some well-known people. I don't know if you spotted.
Because Fred Willard would go on and do like a bunch of Christopher Guest movies.
Yeah, he was in a lot of Christopher Guest. Again, he recently passed away earlier this year. But he did a lot of Christopher Guest mockumentaries and was always very funny, I felt like, in those movies. Did you spot... I mean, well, obviously, Fran Drescher plays a character in this film. Yeah.
She plays Fran Drescher.
Yeah, she plays Fran Drescher. She always plays Fran Drescher. Did you spot Dana Carvey and Billy Crystal as the mimes at that same party?
No, I didn't realize that was them.
They do have a brief exchange very quickly. When he's like, "Do the bird," or something like that. Yeah,
in the back or whatever. He's like, "I'm doing the dead bird," and no one's getting it.
Right. Dana Carvey, Billy Crystal. Who else is in this movie? Paul Schaefer from the David Letterman Show, who's the band leader of the David Letterman Show. He plays Artie Fufkin. Angelica Houston, John Huston's daughter, is actually the one that designs the Stonehenge incorrectly.
Oh, yeah.
And then, of course, Fred Willard, as I mentioned. Howard Hesseman is in the movie. He's most well known for probably WKRP in Cincinnati. But yeah, I mean, I think this movie... Oh, and Ed Begley Jr. He's their drummer when they do the kind of the flashback. They're talking about when they first started as like the Beatles group, the Give Me Some Money. He's their drummer. He's just kind of like... whatever, drumming away. But yeah, they start off as like a Beatles kind of knockoff, and they're the originals, but then they got to change their name to the New Originals because the originals already existed and all this other stuff. They have a history of losing their drummers. Their drummers die in bizarre gardening accidents.
And the interesting thing about that is, and again, this is how like realistic and clever it is that big fan of Marilyn Manson growing up and stuff like that. And like the drummers always have these weird nicknames. And Manson had a drummer called Freddie the Wheel. And they called him Freddie Wheel. And supposedly he was a terrible drummer that couldn't keep time. But then he wound up in like a local Dallas-based band as their drummer and stuff like that. So like that interaction, the way they talk about these drummers, I'm like, oh yeah. I know exactly, like I've seen that before. Like that is very realistic. But sorry, go on.
No, so the band members themselves are Michael McKean, plays David St. Hubbins. Christopher Guest, who we've already mentioned, plays Nigel Tufnel, and he's kind of the dumbest one of the group. Then finally you got Harry Shearer, who plays Derek Smalls, the bassist. The other two guys, and honestly, I've seen this movie several times, but I never really bothered to look up who they are. The guy that plays the keyboards, in the movie, his character is Viv Savage. He was played by a guy named David Caff. Or I think Caff is short for something, but I didn't write his full last name down. But he actually was a keyboardist for a lot of different bands back in the day. And then Mick Shrimpton is the character's name, the drummer that lasts the longest in the movie, although he spontaneously combusts at the end.
And for the Japanese show or whatever.
And he got replaced by a different drummer. But that guy also apparently was in some bands, some band, and again, sorry if you're a fan, but he was in some band called Atomic Rooster. I've never heard of them. But he was in some bands back in the day. And what I found was funny, so you mentioned the fact that you thought for the longest time that this was in a real band and a real movie or whatever. When I first rented this film back in the 90s, I sat down to watch it with my roommate, but I knew that it was fake, or I knew that it was a mockumentary. I did not tell my roommate it was a mockumentary. And when he watched it, he was just very confused the whole time because he didn't know whether to laugh or whether they were being serious or what was going on. And I remember when the movie was over, because I was laughing.
Yeah.
I remember when the movie was over.
He's probably like, "Whoa, you're an
Well,
asshole."
I think he for like when I was laughing, he was kind of chuckling too because he was like, "I guess it's funny, I guess," but he still was very perplexed the whole movie. And then when it was over, I was like, "That was all fake. Like that was I just wanted to see like your reaction or whatever." And he was like, "Oh, okay, well now it makes sense." But yeah, he was confused. But yeah, I don't think they marketed this movie when it came out, as fake or as a mockumentary, right? They released it like it was a real thing. Yeah. And so if you went
it's
in,
like the Blair Witch Project a little bit. Yeah.
If you went in and you got the joke, you got the joke. If you didn't get the joke, you didn't get the joke. But I don't know. But I've always known that the movie was fake or whatever. Like before I saw it, but. The band actually did start playing some gigs. They actually did
I would
play
see
some
them live.
stuff.
Like I said, the music's good and apparently the actors can play like the instruments.
Yeah.
Like they're musicians
Right.
of themselves or accomplished musicians.
Yeah, but I thought it was cool. Like they actually did do. It's not like they went on like a huge tour or anything like that, but they did play some live venues or whatever. And the guy Mick Shrimpton, that the drummer that blows up at the end, he went on tour with them when they did play. But he was the twin brother, Rick Shrimpton.
That's awesome.
That's how they got around because they were like, "Well, we killed him off in the movie."
That is amazing. That is that's genius right there.
I thought that was
in case you were curious if these guys are intelligent geniuses.
Yeah,
that proves they are geniuses. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, you bring up the songs. I really like the songs in this movie, despite the fact that they're satirical.
Give Me Some Money's awesome. Big Bottom is it's probably
Big Bottom has the best lyrics. I'm sorry.
Supposedly they all play basses for Big Bottom. Like they're all playing
I
bass.
didn't notice that.
Yeah, I was listening. I was listening to someone else review the movie, and I was like, "Oh, I have to." It's clever.
Sex Farm is another one of their songs or whatever. But they lampoon, with the Give Me Some Money, the kind of Beatles song that they do. Then they go through like a psychedelic phase and they listen to the Flower People or whatever. That's a really funny song. But their songs are top notch, like parody songs, but they're as good as Weird Al Yankovic or somebody would ever do. Like they're really, really funny.
Sex Farm reminds me of Snake Farm, which was a Zappa song, right?
You got me.
I think so.
Yeah, it probably was. It probably like a knockout.
Or no, he did a song called I don't know. Never mind. No.
But as you said, from what I read as well, it appears that most of this movie was just improv, and they tried as best as they could to get just one take so that the reactions would always be natural, so that they would. And they they brought in kind of the Janine character, which is David St. Hubbins or Michael McKean's girlfriend, to be like the Yoko Ono who kind of drives Nigel out of the band briefly, and then he comes back at the end, and they kiss and make up, and then they go on tour because Sex Farm has rocketed to the top of the charts,
like
in Japan.
number 4 in Japan, or something.
Whatever. So they do it, but what I understood, they kind of brought her in to give the film a little bit of a plot and a little bit of drama, which I'm fine with.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like her stuff is probably the weakest out of everything. To me, and I just feel like this movie is really short. Yeah. Like I wish there was more to it, and maybe it's just because it's so abrupt that switch to Japan. But I mean, like I said, I wish there was more, and her plot just kind of, it didn't really 100% work for me. But I get the idea of it and stuff.
Yeah, and like I said, I think they just brought it in to give the movie because they were afraid that the movie didn't have enough of a plot or whatever, which. I don't care. I just think it's funny seeing them be. He's playing the really beautiful piano part, and he's like, "What's that called?" And he's like, "Lick My Love Pump." It's like so. It just does not go with this gorgeous piano piece that he's playing. I mean, it's just crazy stuff like that.
Waiting for the drummer to die, a la Cliff Burton in The Bus.
Oh no!
You know what I mean? Because I saw The Bus, and I'm just like, "Oh no!"
Yeah.
Is this where we're going with this?
He's referring to Cliff Burton of Metallica, the original bassist, right, from Metallica.
I mean, it's a tragedy that he passed away, and not to demean that, but I just was expecting that kind of. I as soon as they set up a bunch of the drummers died, I'm just waiting for the drummer to die, and it's interesting because I think another drummer spontaneously combusted because they talked about it. So it's kind of sucks that they repeated that, but whatever. That's just nitpicking at this point.
Well, and then Spinal Tap would go on to be on The Simpsons. They're in an episode of The Simpsons, and they get confused. Well, they don't get confused. Something bad happens during their set or during their concert, and they say, "Good night, Springton. There will be no encore." Instead of Springfield, they mistakenly call it Springton.
At least they didn't call it Shelbyville.
And then they also were on SNL. They were the musical acts on an episode of SNL.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and I did not realize this. So I knew Christopher Guest was a cast member of SNL right after This Is Spinal Tap for one season only. Harry Shearer was on SNL, which I didn't know, and he was on SNL for 2 seasons, but he did one season like prior to This Is Spinal Tap, like in the late 70s, and then I believe he did the same season that Christopher Guest did. And then Michael McKean would do SNL for 2 seasons in the 1990s. So they all 3 of these guys actually were cast members at one time,
cool.
even if it was just for one season on SNL, which I was unaware of.
And not a lot of overlap between them.
No, right. And as we mentioned, Christopher Guest has done. His career is basically mockumentaries.
Best in Show. They do Fish Call Wanda?
No, but his wife, Jamie Lee Curtis, is in it. He's been married to Jamie Lee Curtis since, I think, 1984 when this movie came out. But yeah, he's done Best in Show, Mighty Wind, Waiting for Guffman, all those guys.
I think Waiting for Guffman's probably the big one.
Yeah, well, that was the first one. I remember. I've seen Waiting for Guffman, Best in Show, and A Mighty Wind. I don't think I've seen anything past that. But I enjoy them. I don't think any of them kind of meet the level of This Is Spinal Tap. But I think they're good. I think the biggest problem with the later mockumentaries that he would do is they're too maybe self-aware. Like I'm aware that I'm watching Parker Posey try and improv in those movies, or Catherine O'Hara try and improv in those movies. Whereas I feel like in This Is Spinal Tap, it comes across much more organically. And again, that's probably a product of they tried to capture things the first go round so that they didn't become stale or they didn't look like they were acting in some way.
And maybe Rob Reiner's direction on it too.
Yeah.
Which I enjoy seeing Rob Reiner on film.
And he's funny too. I mean, just in his own little kind of straight man kind of role.
And he was in Wolf of Wall Street, and he was funny in Wolf of Wall Street too. So
the commentary on the DVD and the Blu-ray is them in character as Spinal Tap.
Oh, that's cool.
And I've actually, horrible me, I've not ever listened to it with the commentary.
I got to do it with the commentary.
I'm going to do that very soon because I've heard that it is hilarious.
That's awesome.
Because they're like kind of pissed at how they're portrayed and they're like talking shit about it or whatever. So I've heard that it's really, really funny. I've been remiss in not listening to it.
Sign me up for that. That sounds awesome.
Got any other thoughts?
I do not. No, just overall like it. Felt like it was too short. Wish it was a little bit longer. And like I said, it's not super, super exaggerated. It's just a little bit above normal, so I can understand everyone's thinking it's real. And smart guys for sure, smarter than me.
It's 95% fresh. 92% audience score. It got 2 thumbs up, and both Siskel and Ebert gave it 4 stars. They loved it. And Leonard Maltin, he's a little bit better this time. He gave it 3 stars. So
Leonard, don't like it.
That's fine. I mean, I think 4 stars is a bit much. 4 out of 4. I wouldn't say it's perfect or anything, but it's still a very, very fun movie that I've revisited several times over the years. I've seen it many times. It never fails to make me laugh. And if you have never seen This Is Spinal Tap, check it out. Check out Big Bottom and Sex Farm and all their songs. They're
Smell the Glove.
Smell the Glove.
Great album.
They're out right. With an entirely black cover. And apparently that's another thing.
Metallica,
I heard that they were slightly influenced by Smell the Glove when they did their black album.
I was thinking about that when that came out. I was like, oh, interesting.
A lot of what happens in the movie, like them not being able to find their way to the stage and stuff, apparently a lot of these things were based off of real life incidents that they had heard from actual musicians. I don't know how true that is, but it makes for a pretty good story. Anyway.
No, one of the YouTubers I was watching was actually talked about This Is Spinal Tap, and was saying that that's a common occurrence. Like you get kind of you new venue every night, never been there, and you're trying to make your way to the stage, and it's easy to get lost.
Yeah,
for sure. All right.
So for next time, I guess I'll mention the movie that we paired it with because we want to talk about kind of where we're influenced in our decision for the next movie. I almost went with an actual rockumentary, but I don't know. I just didn't feel like it. I want to do another kind of comedy kind of thing. I almost did The Ruddles, All You Need Is Cash, which is a mockumentary that came out in the late 70s. It's kind of all a parody about the Beatles.
Okay.
And it was made by some of the members of Monty Python. I don't remember exactly which ones because I'm too lazy to look it up and I haven't seen it in a long time. But the movie that I went with is a movie from the early 1990s. Also, not as much a mockumentary as this movie is. It's more like a movie where a guy's making a rapumentary, but it stars Chris Rock and Chris Elliott and Phil Hartman and the late Charlie Murphy, Eddie Murphy's brother, and it is 1993's CB4. So we'll talk about that next time.
All right. So that was our review on This is Spinal Tap. Stay tuned for CB4. If you have a question you'd like us to answer on air, shoot us an email at realshame, I always say that weird. Shoot us an email, realshame@gmail.com. I had an extra at for some reason. Follow us on Instagram at realshame. Like, subscribe, comment below if you're watching us on YouTube. That stuff actually helps. And stay tuned, because next time we're going to dive into Cell Block 4 and talk about MC Gusto and his crew. We'll see you next time, guys.